What's up, Wizards? It's Dev, and we have got a fun one for you today. It is time again, one of my favorite times to be a Magic man, because MARO has released his Tarkir Dragonstorm teaser, and there's a lot of fun information here. In case you've never seen one of these before, he does one before every set, about a week before previews, and we are exactly 1 week before previews, so checks out. But he usually puts in some cryptic information, some creature types from the set, some card names, some text, and all that. But these are always a lot of fun to go through, and again, one of my favorite things to do as a content creator. So let's go ahead and delve into it. Make sure you go in the comments section and let me know what you think some of these hints are alluding to. But let's get to it. What did Mark say? Before previews for Tarkir Dragonstorm officially begin, I thought it would be fun to do another of my duelist style teasers where I give tiny hints of things to come. Note that I'm only giving you partial information. He did copy and paste that part for every set. But here's what we're doing. First up, here are some things you can expect. This is always the most interesting section in these teasers, with the most like speculationable information. I'm just making up words. Anyway, the first bullet point here is a cycle of Dragonstorm enchantments. Nobody knows what the heck. I don't know what that means. I really don't. And we're going to see a bunch of like Rite of the Dragon style enchantments. I have no idea, but that's one of those bullet points where it's like, without knowing what that means, I really can't give you too much information, so I apologize. There are some things, though, that I can speculate a little bit more on, like 2 planeswalkers here. Well, we're almost certain one's going to be Ugin, unless, they're swaying here. Maybe somehow Ugin has also been desparked and he can't keep Bolas in check anymore. Like something's going on with that. I have no idea, but I would assume it's a pretty safe money on the Vegas odds here are that one of these 2 planeswalkers is Ugin. So who's the other one? Again, baseless speculation, but there's a lot of different ones that it could be, man. I can see them doing Teferi because there's going to be time counters in this set that's in the next bullet point. And even though Teferi's never given out time counters, if there was a walker that did, I could see it being Teferi, but maybe Teferi's just a normal creature at this point. Either way, it could also just be Jace again. They like doing Jace. But apart from that, it could be a Johnny. I feel like we just gotten a Johnny in Foundations, but that doesn't preclude us from getting, a tricolor Johnny of some kind. Perhaps Abzan or something like that. But it could also be Elspeth. I've heard a couple of people say Elspeth, and I guess that would be cool. I mean, there are some Tarkir-specific planeswalkers, but we know, like, Sarkhan is a creature. We've already seen the creature version of Sarkhan, and he looked really, really good, too. But as far as the other planeswalker, not Ugin, there's a couple that I'd speculate on, and I have seen a couple people say they want, like, an Abzan Ajani, and honestly, I'd be down with that. I'm always fine with Ajani. It's, like, one of my favorites. But the next bullet point is some counters in the set. Decayed, all right, lifelink, and time. There's the time counter. So time counters are usually used for suspend cards, but I guess there's also time counters on like As Foretold. It's like a 3-mana enchantment that gets a time counter every turn, and then like you can cast spells for free that have the amount of like the mana value of the amount of time counters on As Foretold. It's a fun little card, but I don't think that's it. I think we're just doing suspend stuff in this set. Even if it's like a one-off suspend card, it might be cool. Now, lifelink just means that there are going to be ability counters in this set. Now, it could again be a one-off. Just one card gets a lifelink counter, a combat trick or something, or maybe a creature that throws one. But I think this is more of like we're getting some abilities in this set, especially considering some other bullet points that are down here later. I think we're getting ability counters again for real. But Decayed is also here. In case you don't remember Decayed, it was on a bunch of like zombie tokens a few sets ago. It basically means if a creature attacks, then it dies at end of combat. So that might actually be an interesting token to throw around as a pseudo black removal spell or something like that. But I could also see it working, giving this huge boost to one of your creatures, but it also gives it a Decayed counter. There's a few ways that could work. Next bullet point is a card that can tutor for one of 2 other cards. I think there's another bullet point like this down here somewhere, at least that alludes to it. They're doing this Yu-Gi-Oh thing, which I don't mean to denigrate it. I kind of like this idea. Anytime they print a card that can go and get like, or that references a specific other Magic card, I think they need to do that very sparingly, but I do kind of like when they do it. Given that they haven't really done it too much. I feel like a few years ago, they did it with a bunch of planeswalkers that came in like intro packs or whatever. Like the planeswalker would tutor for a different card, or the other card would care about the planeswalker. So again, they haven't done it much, but I do kind of like this basic idea if you do it correctly. So again, as long as they don't do it too much. But next is a legendary enchantment That's all you get. It's just, it's a legendary enchantment. Have there been legendary enchantments? I can assume that there have been legendary enchantments. There's Necro Duality, by the way. We'll look at that in just a second. We really will. But all right, so type line legendary. All right, so it's legendary, and it's also an enchantment. I imagine we'll get like a legendary enchantment creature, right? So search with these options. Yeah, the backgrounds are legendary enchantments. There's Annex. There's some creatures. Yeah, Annie joins up. The joins up. That's right. We've got them in standard. Like Tiny Bones joins up and stuff. Legendary enchantments. The gods are legendary enchantments. Maybe it's a god. Bow of Nylea, Biden. These are legendary. So, like, it's not like we've never had these before. Let's go back to Necro Duality. Let's go ahead and have that cocked and loaded for later. Anyway, it's not like we've never had legendary enchantments before. So, I'm not sure how amazing this is, but I do think that this will matter a couple of bullet points from now. We'll get there. But anyway, a Hydra that uses a clan keyword is the next bullet point here. Now, there's three, I think, that could fit for this. The Teamer clan keyword is Ferocious. More on that in a second. It's basically, it like cares about a creature, you having a creature power 4 or greater. Abzan is Outlast, which usually is like activated ability, tap the creature down and pay mana, and it gets a +1/+1 counter at sorcery speed. So that's pretty boring, but obviously a Hydra, it seems like that's a pretty good ability for a Hydra, right? Put +1/+1 counters on itself. A Hydra would do that. And then like, what is it? Sultai. Another good color combination for a Hydra is Delve. And we'll get to Delve a little bit later too. There is a card with a Delve, or that gives all your other cards Delves. Wild. But maybe it's that. It could be that. One and the same. So if it's a Hydra that like gives all your cards Delve, that would fulfill this bullet point. It's got the word Delve on it. That's a clan keyword, and it's a Hydra. So that would be insane. Right, as at least as a commander if it's legendary, but maybe even in standard depending on how much it costs. So I want to know if it's Sultai Hydra that has Delve on it. Gross potentially, but I'm actually more thinking that it is an Abzan Hydra that uses Outlast, and that's not as exciting, but flavorfully it makes just as much or probably more sense. But moving on here, the next bullet point is a common archetype gets a theme, gets an ability word, so an archetype theme. That could mean a lot of things, and I've seen some people saying that maybe it's Ferocious, but like that already has an ability word, so that would not be it. I think what we're gonna see here is what I've gotten a few of these bullet points written down, but I'm using like shorthand. And what I've got written down for this one is booty. The word booty. And I guess what I mean by that is, these creatures that care about toughness rather than power. They hit for toughness rather than power, or they allow your other creatures to do so. So I'm pretty sure that we're finally going to get an ability word for like, Sir Mix-a-Lot type creatures. I like big butts as well. And we've already got a few things in standard that care about booty rather than the front half. So maybe that's what it is. I would give that a pretty safe call here. Apart from that, I'm not really sure what it actually could be, unless it's something as simple as like aggro, mid-range, or control. You know what I mean? Like the control ability word. I don't know how that would even work. So yeah, I think that it's something like that. But we'll move on here to an instant that generates 5 effects. What am I supposed to do here? You know what I mean? I feel like this could have been like in a different section of the teaser, because even though it's neat sounding, it's probably like modal. Well, it could just actually always do all 5 effects, but what could those be, and what would the cost be? Or like a 7 mana blue spell. It's like draw a card, bounce a guy. Maybe it's like, it's got to be multicolored, right? It's got to be like clan oriented or something. So maybe it's like Sultai, draw a card, bounce a creature, kill a guy, return a creature from your graveyard to your hand, ramp. That's 5 things, right? So it could be, but I'm not sure here. I mean, who could be? Who could actually be sure about that? I bet that's it, though. An instant that generates 5 effects, right? Like, sometimes we see these, like, 7 mana. We got all the ultimatums recently. Not recently. It was probably like 6 years ago. We got, like, Emergent Ultimatum and stuff like that. And I bet it's just, like, a very expensive instant that either does all 5 small things or, again, is modal. And you can pick some number of modes. But Next is Dragons gets a new typal enchantment based on a popular zombie one. This is probably the thing that's gotten the most talk today. I've seen people say it could be Endless Ranks of the Dead, which is an enchantment that, like, during your upkeep, you get a number of 2/2 zombies equal to half the number of zombies you control, or something like that. Very popular zombie enchantment in Commander. I don't think it's that. I don't think you're going to get a bunch of, like, 2/2 dragon tokens or anything. The two best specs, in my opinion, are Necroduality, which we looked at just a second ago, and I think that it is Necroduality. I think that's what it is. Whenever a non-token, we'll say dragon in this case, you control enters, create a token that's a copy of that creature. I think that's going to be it. But the other one that everyone is talking about makes a ton of sense, like thematically for the set. It's Rooftop Storm here. This is a 6-mana enchantment. You may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for dragon creature spells you cast. In this case, is what it would be. This is, I think, the kind of card they'd rather print, honestly. It's 6 mana rather than 4. It's really sick in Commander. It's tempting in Standard, but not good. It probably wouldn't be good. Although, unlike, say, your, what is it, Rite of the Dragon Caller, right? A 6-mana enchantment that whenever you cast a dragon or whatever, you get like a 5/5. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, I think maybe you get a 5/5 dragon. In this case, you don't have to have any extra mana. You play Rooftop Storm, and you just cast a dragon from your hand, if you've got one, and you should. So that is better value because, like, once the spell resolves, you immediately get priority back and you cast the dragon. So, like, there's no way they can disenchant it before you cast a dragon. So that's kind of neat. I think this is more likely what it is, but I still think that I'm going to call Necroduality here. I think this would be just the absolute bomb, like, in Commander, and both of these would be both versions of this, zombie effect would be. But I think this is the card. I think that the 6-mana one is the card they want to print more. I think that the 4-mana one is the one they need to print. So we'll see how it goes, but I do believe it's going to have to be like one of those two, right? But the final bullet point in this section is a new instant and sorcery subtype, Dragon. Is dragon already a subtype? If it's not, then that's it. So we'll see, man. Maybe it's a completely different word or something having to do with the new mechanic in the set. But again, like Vegas odds. Let's just say dragons. But the next section here is some rules text that'll be showing up on cards. So let me run through these real quick. Whenever you cast a turtle spell, untap this creature. So, like, hopefully a creature with an activated ability or maybe a mana ability. Could be like a 2-mana dork or something. That as long as you're casting turtles, you untap him. I can see that, right? Because what is it? I forget the name of this dude, but on the Big Booty theme, Home of the Big Booty Burger. That's from Good Burger. Sorry, but just came out of my throat. Anyway, there is a turtle that costs 3 mana, and he's like a 0/6, and creatures you control hit for toughness rather than power, and as long as it's your turn, your creatures have hexproof, or like something like each creature with toughness greater than its power has hexproof. Something like that. And I could see this being like a 1/3. Or, a 0/3 even, 2-mana dork that taps for mana. And if you have that guy in play, suddenly he's like a 3/3, like that'd be cool. But we'll see. Hopefully there's like a turtle theme. That would be sick. Anyway, next is as long as there are 3 or more different kinds of counters among creatures you control. So this is what leads me to believe that we're going to get more ability counters in this set, right? We've already seen lifelink, decayed, time counters, I guess, but that's probably going to be on suspended stuff, if I had to guess. But yeah, this makes me think that, of course, we'll see +1/+1 counters. Those are in just about every set. And there could be like a drafty theme based around them. But again, seeing lifelink counters up there in a different bullet point makes me think we'll have different ability counters besides just that in the set. But moving on, you may cast it without paying its mana cost if that spell's mana value is 8 or less. Unquote. I should probably quote and unquote these so you know where they actually start and end. But yeah, that's a pretty powerful line of text, right? You may cast it, whatever that means, without paying its mana cost if that spell's mana value is 8 or less. So is it any spell? Is it just creatures? Is it just instants or sorceries? Is it a planeswalker? That'd be crazy, right? Most planeswalkers cost 8 or less. But this does strike me as like there's a 9 or 10 or 12 mana card they don't want you playing off of this. And that doesn't mean they're printing one of those cards in a standard, right? It could just mean that to make things safe in like older formats, right, you have to slap that line of text on it, or else people are going to be playing like even in standard omnisciences and portal of Phyrexias and stuff. So this does cut off some pretty wild options, right? So we'll see what this actually is. If it's just like 5 mana, look at the top 3 cards of your library, pick one, and then cast it for free, right? That would be pretty good at like instant speed or something. That would be actually gross, depending on what you can get with it. So, but we'll see. You know, maybe a card like Make Your Own Luck is better, and that sees only sparing play right now. But obviously, a line of text like this could be incredibly broken. It all just kind of depends on how much spell cost and what the requirements and restrictions are, right? So, these you know, reading a text on a card is always misleading, right? It's always potentially very misleading because you see a line of text like this, you get super excited, but it turns out, you know, you can't cast it unless it's turn 12, and you know what I mean? You never know what it's going to end up being. But next is, quote, if you put +1/+1 counters on 5 dragons this way, you win the game. That sounds fun. Whatever that is, I want to try it. The likelihood of having 5 dragons, I think, is relatively low in standard, but remember that we have changeling creatures already, and we go back to Lorwyn next year. That should likely have changeling creatures in it too, so maybe there's some kind of like wonky thing you can do in standard and win the game that way. But in Commander, right, Dragon is still like one of the most popular commanders, and there's a couple of other dragon commanders that people that are really popular right now in like the top 100. So, you know, I guess in Commander it might not be as far-fetched to be able to win the game with an effect like this. So we'll see, man. The spell has to resolve, and you have to actually like still have 5 dragons in play when it does so. Like if they just go for the throw 1 dragon and you're down to 4, like I guess you're done, right? So, but I guess you still put +1/+1 counters on a bunch of dragons. That could be worse. I just feel like if you have 5 dragons, you're probably winning anyway in most competitive environments. But again, in standard, this could be the bomb diggity. Is that a thing? Can we still say the bomb diggity? I miss it. Anyway, next is, quote, whenever a creature you control enters, if you cast it, destroy that creature, unquote. That's pretty cool. What I want this to do is say that it gives this to all your opponents. It gives this ability to each opponent or something, or each player. It can do this to you too, so long as it's symmetrical. That'd be fine. But it could also just be an incredibly busted card, right? It could be like a 2 mana 6/6 flyer that says this, and it's not that. I really don't think it's that, but I do think it's probably a creature, very likely a creature. But you know, this could go well in things that want stuff in their graveyard anyway. This could go well in reanimator decks because those decks don't cast their creatures by and large, so that's kind of neat. There's lots of ways to bring creatures in from your graveyard, right? So I think this could potentially just be a card that cost way less than it should. Let me say that much. You know, I've already posited that a couple of these cards probably cost like 1 million mana, and that's why they have this ridiculous line of text. This seems like a crazy downside, but when you see a downside, you kind of start like getting excited because that's bad. You don't want a card to do that to you. So what's the up? You know, what's the upside on this? But next is, quote, at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you've cast both a creature spell and a non-creature spell this turn, unquote. So I want to say this says if you've case both a non-creature spell, maybe it's a new mechanic, but no, I think it's a typo. So if you cast 2 spells and they have to be both a creature and a non-creature, something happens. Again, I don't know really how we speculate on this because it could be anything. It could even be a boat. But in this case, I'm not really sure what something like this could do. Maybe it's draw a card. Maybe it's just draw 2 cards. How nuts would that be? Pretty nuts. Then, quote, quote, then if creatures you control have total toughness 20 or greater. Again, this supports the butt matters theme, the big booty burger matters theme. I think it's going to be a real thing in this set, and I kind of hope it does. I hope it ends up being one. So I've always liked it. But is this just like biorhythm? Is this, you know what I mean? Like if creatures you control have total toughness 20 or greater, you win the game. Are there 2 you win the game cards in this set? I hope so. In some ways, I hope so. A lot of people are talking about how, and we'll get on this a little bit more later, a lot of people are talking about how this set seems to take itself a little more seriously than the hat sets and, you know, the cowboy set and the murders set and all that stuff, the Mario Kart set. And it'd be really funny if, in terms of the actual design of the cards, this was the wackiest set they released in 5 years. It's like 2 you win the game alternate conditions and stuff. But anyway, we'll move on. Quote, during your end step, warrior tokens you control have, this token can't be sacrificed. Okay. Only during your end step, by the way. So that's interesting because there's cards that make you sacrifice stuff during your end step, right? So cool. Maybe they have Decayed. Maybe this is the Decayed thing, right? Decade's coming back on warrior tokens, but if you have this guy out, then they don't die because they don't get sacked to Decayed. That's my thought. Anyway, next quote. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you may search your library for a card name, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. So this is another one. That, like, it's a card that cares about a specific other Magic card. So again, don't overdo this, but I think that these are cool generally. And then finally in this section, quote, spells you cast have delve, unquote. This might be the Hydra, right? A Hydra with this line of text. All right. Like, I don't, it's just any card with this line of text could be good. But again, you have to worry that it costs 8 mana or something like that. And like, even then, it might be a playable Magic card. Even if this card costs like 3, I think that there are like, there's going to be spikes who are like, oh, this is bad because you have to skip your 3rd turn and you have to build your whole deck around getting cards in your graveyard. And like, I do not care. I just absolutely don't care. As an incredibly powerful line of text, almost no matter what you have to do for it. So can't wait to see what that do. But anyway, here are some creature types from the set. We're going to have some fun here. Dog Monk. It's a dog monk. That's going to be adorable. Elephant Druid. We've got a Yeti. There's a Yeti in this set. We've got a Djinn Cleric. Okay. Djinn Cleric, I like that. We got a Zombie Advisor. Okay. We got a Kieran in this set. There's a Kieran. There's also a Snake Shapeshifter. Hopefully it has Changeling. I like Changeling. We got an Artifact Creature, which is a Chimera. All right. We've also got an Artifact Creature that is an Ape Snake. It's an ape snake. We also finally have a legendary zombie snake warlock. So I have 3 different snakes in this set. Apparently there's some snakes in the Abjan. Maybe. I assume that snakes are Abjan. I don't know why. But anyway, finally, the last thing. Here are some names in this set. All Out Assault. Cruel Truths. Desperate Measures. Dragonologist. All right. 100 Battle Veteran. That's a warrior. Lightfoot Technique, a pump spell probably. Rescue Leopard, a green creature. Seize the Opportunity, or just seize opportunity, I guess. Stillness in Motion. And then finally, War Effort. Tune in to the Tarkir Dragonstorm debut stream on March 18th, streaming on twitch.tv/magic at 10 a.m. PDT. Don't forget, the weekend is daylight saving time. The U.S. will shift their clocks forward 1 hour. The start time may be different than you expect as a result. All right, so this, sorry. It was way too much, but this I've seen some people again happy about all the names of the cards in this set, because none of these, you'll note that basically not a single one of these is a pun. There isn't a pun in. That's wild. It's a Magic set, but I thought this was a Magic the Gathering set, and we don't get a single pun. And like, people are pretty happy about that. None of these are like dragon something. I don't know why I can't. Dragon, like a removal spell for dragons. Dragon. It's nothing like that. Dragon to the pit or anything like that. Which is good, I guess, if you hate fun. But a lot of people are liking that this set is taking itself more seriously and it feels like a Magic the Gathering set. That's cool. That's good. Maybe then people will like it. So you've had a bunch of sets come out that people don't like. And I think it's good when Magic players like Magic sets. Generally, I like when hobbyists enjoy their hobby. So I think it's probably good. It's probably good that people are saying some of the things they're saying just about these names. But that is it for now. We are 1 week out from official preview season, and there's a few things left to do in Ether Drift Standard. Video-wise, I got a deck tech, 1 more top 3 decks of the week, maybe some sort of tier list or something. But we will very soon be on top of these Tarkir spoilers, and I cannot freaking wait, dude. Tarkir is a set I love, and so do like 95% of you guys. It's a set we've been waiting to go back to, or plane we've been waiting to go back to forever. So let me know how you felt about all this stuff down there in the comments section. And while you're at it, on your way out, do the YouTube things. Hit the button shaped like a thumb, sub to the sandwich, check out the Patreon, $1 a month, vote on content, all that stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up so this video is less than 25 minutes long. I love you all very much. I'm Dev from the Place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.